I saw the suitcase before I saw her. Black leather, glossy with rain, sitting by the door like it knew it didn't belong here anymore. Celeste appeared seconds later, phone wedged between her shoulder and cheek, barking logistics in Italian. Luca's name floated through the air like poison, sweetened by her laugh. She didn't even look at me until the call ended. "It's just for a month," she said, her voice too light, too rehearsed. "Florence. Creative retreat. You know how these launches are." I nodded. Not because I believed her, but because I couldn't trust myself to speak. She came closer, reached up, and kissed my cheek, not my lips, like I was a relative she once loved. Her hand grazed my collarbone. "Don't miss me too much, okay?" She didn't wait for a reply. I watched her walk away. Long camel coat, heels clicking against tile, suitcase wheels rolling over the edge of everything we built. She didn't look back. The door closed with a soft finality. A second later, silence moved in like fog. The funny thing is, I already knew. Not just suspected, knew. You don't live with someone, share a bed with them, memorize the pattern of their breathing, and miss the signs. The truth was in the way she flinched when I touched her shoulder. In how she kept her phone face down. In how her perfume changed. I saw the betrayal coming like a train in the distance. But I stood on the tracks anyway. Because I loved her. Because I didn't want to be right. Because some part of me believed that if I stayed still enough, if I waited, she might choose me again. But she didn't. She chose him. The man who flirted openly at her launch party. The one she said was just young and intense. The man whose name kept slipping into conversations like a blade. Luca. She took him to Florence. She left me a note on the fridge about dry cleaning. And just like that, the woman who promised me forever disappeared into a Tuscan sunrise, with her assistant. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that I wouldn't be here when she came back. Not in this house. Not in this life. Not as the man she thought would wait. I didn't scream. I didn't chase. I didn't beg. I just closed the door behind her. And then, quietly, I started to take everything back. When people meet me now, they see a man who keeps his shirts pressed, his shoes clean, and his emotions hidden behind polite smiles. What they don't see is the version of me from 3 years ago, the one who believed in forever. My name is Noah Khan. I'm 35. An architectural designer by trade, raised by immigrant parents who believed in the holy trinity of hard work, humility, and homeownership. My mother scrubbed office floors at midnight so I could finish grad school. My father left a life in Lahore to become a night shift security guard in Brooklyn. I was supposed to be the one who made the struggle mean something. So I built a career, brick by patient brick, and earned a life that felt stable, honorable, real. And then I met her. Celeste Monroe. She came into my life like a poem I wasn't ready for, laughter too loud for the room, eyes that sparkled like chaos disguised as stardust. We met at a charity gala. I was speaking to a client near the bar when she tapped my arm and asked if I could valet her car. I should have been insulted, but I laughed. She did too. That's how it started. She was the daughter of an old money family, launching her own fashion brand with the kind of boldness only people with safety nets can afford. To her, I was exotic, in a way. Grounded. She said I was safe in a good way. I thought that was a compliment. Later, I realized she meant boring. But I fell in love. Fully. Foolishly. The way men like me do, with both feet and no parachute. She moved into my home 6 months after we met. She hated my grayscale furniture, said it was emotionally sterile, and filled our spaces with colors I never would have chosen. Turquoise pillows, abstract art, candles that smelled like Moroccan spice markets. I let her. Love, I thought, was a compromise. She was the fire, I was the hearth. She needed freedom, I needed belonging. We could make it work. Enter Luca, Celeste's assistant. 24. With that Instagram model face and a smirk that always felt like it was aimed at me. He started as her intern and somehow never left. She insisted he was harmless. He's gay, she said once. He wasn't. He was the type who wore unbuttoned silk shirts in January and spoke in aphorisms like a self-help podcast. He brought her oat milk lattes, flirted with her openly, and made me feel like an afterthought in my own relationship. I raised concerns. She called me paranoid. Said I was becoming controlling. But I knew what I saw. The way her phone suddenly had passcodes. The late-night strategy calls. The change in her eyes. How she used to look at me like I was her anchor, and now stared past me like she was already gone. The three of us existed in a triangle no one acknowledged. I was the foundation, solid, necessary, invisible. She was the wind, restless, beautiful, untouchable. And he was the spark. The danger. The gravity that eventually pulled her away. I stayed. I made her tea during her mood swings, helped fund her failing pop-up shop, cancelled my Paris conference just to attend her launch party. I kept choosing her, even when she stopped choosing me. And when she finally told me she was going on a month-long retreat to Florence with Luca, for business, I didn't argue. I just nodded. Kissed her goodbye. I watched her leave with that same fire in her eyes she had when she arrived. But something broke in me that day. Not because she left. But because she didn't look back. When Celeste walked into my life, she brought color to a world I didn't know was grayscale. I met her on a rainy Wednesday at a pop-up art gallery in Soho. I was only there because my client was showcasing sustainable furniture concepts. I stood in a corner, wine in hand, analyzing the clean symmetry of a walnut coffee table when she breezed in like she owned the place, drenched in burnt orange, high heels clicking like punctuation marks. She thought I was part of the exhibit at first. "Is this a performance piece?" she asked, eyebrow raised, her lips tugging into a smirk. "No," I said, smiling. "But I've been known to hold things together." She laughed, rich, unfiltered, alive. We talked for hours in that overcrowded gallery. About art, space, how colors affect moods, how homes reflect people's emotional architecture. She quoted Maya Angelou, I sketched something on a napkin. She looked at me like I was a rare find in a box of mass-produced lives. That night, she kissed me on the sidewalk, and I forgot that I hated the city when it rained. Celeste didn't fall in love the way I did. I build. Slowly. Foundations, then structure, then finishings. She dove in, no blueprint, just instinct and adrenaline. Within months, we were living together. She moved into my place downtown and turned it into a kaleidoscope, my clean lines blurred by wild prints, my neutrals buried under bold splashes of gold and blue. At first, I thought it was beautiful, like waking up inside a dream I never dared to design. She'd dance barefoot in the kitchen to Nina Simone while burning toast, then cry at 2 a.m. over a pitch that didn't land. I'd hold her, brush her curls back, whisper that she was more than enough. "You're too good for this world, Noah," she'd murmur. "Too grounded. Too safe." I took it as a compliment back then. We made plans, big ones. A brand that blended architecture and fashion, where design met identity. We'd call it Form and Flame. She said I made things real, and she made things burn. A perfect match. But somewhere in our second year, I noticed she stopped finishing her sentences. "I just need something else, you know," she'd say, staring out the window, cigarette smoke curling like question marks. "Like what?" She'd shrug. "I don't know. Just more. More. That word started to haunt me. Was I not enough? Was the life we built together, Sunday mornings, soft jazz, design renderings spread across the table, not what she'd imagined forever to feel like? She started traveling more. Investor meetings, brand collabs, Europe's calling, vague phrases that left me watching her pack new outfits into suitcases she barely zipped up. And then came Luca. Her new assistant. Younger. Louder. Allured by chaos. The kind of guy who wore leather jackets unironically and made everyone feel like they were the most interesting person in the room, even when they weren't. She introduced him at a product launch like a prop. "Noah, this is Luca. Brilliant, dramatic, kind of a pain, but I love his madness." I shook his hand. Firmly. His smile didn't reach his eyes. From the start, I could tell. He wanted more than her calendar access. And she? She lit up around him in ways that used to be reserved for our private little universe. I tried to ignore it. To trust her. To be safe. But trust starts to rot when one person begins rehearsing their exit while the other is still dreaming about renovations. One night, while we were in bed, she said something that clung to my chest like mold. "You know, sometimes I wonder if I missed my wild years." I looked at her, makeup smudged, skin glowing under moonlight, and said, "You can be wild with me." She smiled. "No, baby. You're my calm. That's why I love you." Except love, I learned, isn't just about what you need. It's about what you choose when temptation comes knocking. And for Celeste, temptation wore Italian sunglasses and whispered rebellion in fluent charm. Still, I held on. Because love isn't just about passion, it's about history. And we had so much of it. She was the first person I ever envisioned growing old with. The one I imagined decorating nurseries with. Hosting New Year's parties with. Sitting in silence and still feeling full. So I stayed. Even as her phone started turning face down more often. Even as she talked about solo time like it was a new religion. Even as she told me, gently, with fake kindness, that she needed space to rediscover herself. What I didn't know was that she was rediscovering herself in Luca's hotel room in Milan. But I'd find out soon enough. And when I did, I wouldn't just walk away. No, I'd leave her exactly what she gave me. An empty house. I wasn't looking for proof. That's the part that still haunts me. It was just supposed to be a gesture. Something small. I wanted to surprise Celeste for our 4th anniversary. A slideshow, photos of us through the years, from the night we met at that gallery to the Sunday mornings tangled in throw blankets. I opened her laptop because mine had died. That was all. But the truth doesn't wait for invitations. Her desktop background had changed. A photo of a vineyard at sunset, glowing golden orange, framed by cypress trees and 2 glasses of wine blurred in the foreground. I felt a flicker in my chest, a vague sense of dislocation. We hadn't been there together. I would have remembered. I clicked into her downloads folder, searching for the vacation pictures from Mexico the year before. Instead, I saw a new folder. Florence_project. At first, I thought it was work-related. A branding campaign. That was her thing, luxury aesthetics, curated experiences. But when I opened it, the first image hit like a cold slap. Celeste, lying back on a white-sheeted bed. Laughing. Wearing a silk slip I hadn't seen before. Her neck arched as a blurred hand, masculine, brushed past her shoulder. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking at whoever was behind it. Looking like she belonged to them. I clicked again. A video. She and Luca, her assistant, on a terrace overlooking rolling hills. He was feeding her strawberries. She kissed his fingers. The camera kept rolling. I don't remember breathing. My lungs just stopped. I should have shut the laptop. I walked away. Pretended. But I couldn't. I had to see just how deep she'd gone. There were text messages. Dozens. Luca, dinner was heaven. You're more addictive than Florence. Celeste, he still thinks I'm here for the campaign. God, he's so safe. Luca, just a month. Then we talk about us. Celeste, yes. Yes. Each message stripped away a version of her I had held on to. The one who used to dance barefoot in my kitchen. The one who said I made her feel safe, seen. The woman who told me, on the day we bought this house, said, "You're the first man who never made me feel like I had to perform." Now I saw the performance had just shifted venues. It wasn't just that she cheated. It was how easily she did it. How carelessly. How she weaponized my love as her alibi. I closed the laptop slowly, like sealing a coffin. For 2 days, I didn't say a word. I didn't text. I didn't call. She sent me updates, photos of architecture, markets, sunsets, like nothing had changed. She captioned one photo, "Wish you were here." I stared at it for hours. Not because I wanted to reply, but because I realized how good she had become at lying without flinching. Then came the breaking point. A friend of mine, Jake, was in Florence on a business trip. He texted me casually, "Dude, I just saw Celeste at a winery. Didn't know you flew out too." I froze. "What do you mean?" I typed. She was with a guy. Kinda young. Stylish. They were dancing. Looked close. I asked him to send me a photo. He did. She was laughing, her head thrown back, one hand clinging to Luca's shirt. They were in motion, carefree, alive. She looked like a woman in love. And it wasn't with me. The timestamp? The same night she told me she had a Zoom investor call. She had even complained about the bad Wi-Fi. I wished her good luck and offered to pick up Thai food when she returned. She had read the message. She just never responded. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, at the lines of light from passing cars slicing across the room. Our bed felt cavernous. The silence screamed. In the morning, I saw her post had gone viral. Someone at the winery had caught her and Luca in a TikTok, captioned, "Power couple goals." Eyes fire. It had over 200,000 views. And suddenly, my inbox was full. People asking if we were still together. Some offer sympathy. Others are just gossiping. That was when she messaged. "Noah, it's not what it looks like. It was just for dinner." The TikTok was out of context. "I didn't want you to find out like this. I love you. Please trust me. We'll talk when I get back." There it was again. "Trust me." She said those words the night we moved in together. She said them every time she went on work trips. Every time I looked into her eyes and didn't ask questions because I thought love meant faith. But she didn't want trust. She wanted cover. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new browser tab and looked up realtors. The house, our house, no longer felt like mine. Every wall whispered her name. Every scent, every corner, every misplaced cup was a breadcrumb leading back to her betrayal. I began to pack. I boxed up our memories like evidence from a crime scene. I left behind the framed photos. The dried roses she hung above our bed. The chipped mug she always used. Let her return to it. Let her walk through the door and find the shell of a life she scorched from the inside out. Let her call out my name and hear only echoes. Let her know what empty really feels like. Grief didn't come crashing in like a tidal wave. It seeped in quietly, like a gas leak I didn't notice until everything inside me had gone numb. The first week after Celeste left for Italy, I was still in denial. I told myself I was overthinking the texts, the photo, the vineyard video. Maybe they were celebrating a deal. Maybe the angle made it look more intimate than it really was. But when she stopped calling completely, when even the obligatory check-ins faded, I knew. She had traded 3 years of love for a month in Florence with her assistant, and not even had the decency to say goodbye properly. I didn't rage. I didn't scream. I just stopped. Stopped watering the plants. Stopped opening the blinds. Stopped responding to my friends, who texted things like "everything okay?" and "haven't heard from you in a while." What could I say? Yes, everything's fine. I just found out my girlfriend emotionally eloped with her employee while still sleeping in the bed we bought together. No. I stayed quiet. Silence became my shield. The house didn't feel like a home anymore. It was a crime scene, every room a flashback. The perfume she left behind still clung to the hallway. Her sketchbook sat on the coffee table, half-drawn. There were notes stuck to the fridge, reminders she'd written for me in her curly handwriting. "Don't forget to take your supplements, my love, Red Heart." It made me physically sick to look at them. I began sleeping on the couch. Her side of the bed felt haunted. I started drinking more, not heavily, just enough to blur the edges. My work suffered. I missed deadlines. I ghosted clients. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who designed perfect homes was now exiled from his own. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I packed her things, not out of anger, but necessity. Each item felt like surgery. Her heels. Her silk robe. The vintage camera I bought her on our trip to Kyoto. I boxed it all carefully and taped the top shut with trembling hands. Then I sat with the box in my lap for an hour, doing absolutely nothing. I wanted to hate her. But I didn't. I hated myself, for trusting so blindly. For loving someone who saw me as a safe option until something more thrilling came along. My turning point wasn't dramatic. It happened while I was brushing my teeth one morning and caught my own reflection. I didn't recognize the man staring back, hollow eyes, jaw tight with resentment, a toothbrush dangling from lips that hadn't smiled in weeks. That's when I knew I was either going to rot here or crawl out. So I listed the house. I didn't even wait for her return. I sold it, cut the strings. Changed my number. Deleted the shared calendar and the Spotify playlist we made together. It hurt like hell. But it also felt like surgery, necessary, brutal, but life-saving. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friends. What could they say that would make it better? I didn't want comfort. I wanted transformation. And somewhere in the rubble of that heartbreak, a thought began to flicker, not revenge yet, but something close. A need to reclaim something she stole, not just my dignity, but my sense of self. I had given her my forever. Now, I would take back my name. Revenge doesn't start with fire. It starts in the quiet. I didn't throw things. I didn't drink myself into oblivion. Instead, I made tea. Earl Grey, just the way I used to make it for her. I sat on the floor of our now empty living room, knees drawn to my chest, back against a wall she once painted sunflower yellow, and stared at the blankness of it all. And that's when it clicked. She didn't break me. She left me in a house filled with my own silence and expected it to devour me. She thought I'd sit here, hollowed out, desperate for crumbs of her regret. But I wasn't going to rot in the ruins. I was going to turn this house, her shrine of aesthetic illusions, into a symbol of her irrelevance. That very night, I started the paperwork to list it for sale. Off-market. Quiet. Discreet. I didn't want her to hear a thing until it was too late. The next morning, I met Mira. She was the real estate attorney assigned to oversee the transfer. She shook my hand like she'd already sized me up and decided I was either freshly divorced or about to get scammed. I liked her immediately. Selling undervalue? She asked, scanning the documents. Are you in a hurry or just emotionally exhausted? A little bit of both, I said. She raised an eyebrow but didn't press. I respected that. But over the next few meetings, Mira and I talked more. I told her the truth in fragments, never dramatic, just the facts. She listened the way you listen to thunder before it strikes, alert, silent, waiting for the shake. Finally, I told her everything. The vineyard. The affair. The videos. The silence. The year-long ghosting. Her message. Her return. Myra's response was a slow sip of her coffee and one sharp sentence. Are you planning to let her waltz back into the same life she walked out on? No, I said. I want her to come back and realize that life doesn't exist anymore. She smiled. Then let's do it right. Together, we redrew the battlefield. First, the locks. Changed. The keyless entry was wiped. Her name was removed from every utility and asset. Not out of spite, out of precision. Second, her belongings. The scarves she left draped over our reading chair. The books she never finished. Her half-used facial serums in the bathroom. I packed them all into a box. No theatrics. No burned letters. Just clinical removal. I mailed them to her family's brownstone with a handwritten note that simply said, "You forgot these. Like you forgot me." Third, the digital erasure. Shared playlists deleted. Collaborative Pinterest boards wiped clean. I took my name off every shared subscription. Changed every password. Unsubscribed from her presence. Then, I sold the house. Below market. I didn't care. Money wasn't the point. Freedom was. We closed the deal in 26 days. The new owners, a young couple with a toddler, sent me a thank you note for leaving the garden in good shape. I smiled. Celeste had always hated that garden. Said the soil smelled too earthy. I used to think she was joking. She wasn't. Mira handed me the final documents at her office. Are you sure you're ready for this chapter to close? I looked at the deed, now signed and sealed. She'll come back, I said. She'll think it's all on pause. That she just has to hit play. And instead, Mira asked. She'll find someone else living in our house. My house. And realize she's the only one who stayed behind. Mira leaned back. It's not the loudest revenge I've seen. But it might be the smartest. I shrugged. Sometimes, the best payback is just living the version of life they thought you'd never have without them. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine was plated with silence, and timing. The day she returned, I was at Myra's loft, reviewing contract blueprints for a boutique project we'd taken on together. My phone buzzed. Her name. Celeste. Like a whisper from a past life. I just got back. I miss you. Can we talk? Miss me? I didn't respond. Not because I wasn't tempted, but because I had already said everything I needed to by erasing her. This revenge wasn't about rage. No slashed tires, no scandalous exposés. That would have meant I still cared enough to scream. No, this was quiet power. Unbothered control. I didn't want to destroy her. I wanted her to realize she'd already done that to herself. 2 days later, she tried again. I stopped by the house. Someone else answered. What's going on? I almost laughed. She thought I'd keep her dream preserved in amber, her clothes folded in drawers, her artwork untouched, waiting for her like a paused movie. But life isn't a rerun. It moves on. She showed up at my office the next day. I was half expecting her. Mira had warned me she might go nuclear after being ghosted. And she did, just more desperate than dramatic. Dressed in black, hair perfectly styled, lips glossed in nostalgia. "Hi," she said softly, voice cracking like a forgotten violin string. Can we talk?" I stared at her for a second too long. I wasn't sure if it was disgust or pity clenching my jaw. "I can give you 5 minutes," I said flatly, gesturing toward the glass conference room. The second we sat down, the mask fell. She reached across the table. "I made a mistake, Noah." I leaned back, arms crossed. "Which one? The lying? The texts you thought I'd never see? Or the part where you left with your assistant like I was some side character in your origin story?" She flinched. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it?" I asked, not shouting, never shouting, just letting the blade of my voice stay calm and sharp. She blinked, eyes shimmering. "Luca, it didn't mean anything long-term. I thought I wanted adventure. I thought you'd always be there when I came back. That was it. I thought you'd always be there." That one sentence unraveled every illusion she had about me. I smiled, but it wasn't kind. "I sold the house 6 months ago. Donate your things to charity. Changed my number. I moved on, Celeste. You just didn't notice because you were too busy reinventing yourself in Europe." She clutched the arms of the chair. "You moved on, with her." She meant Mira. The implication stung of jealousy, not heartbreak. "She helped me heal," I said. "But she didn't break us. You did that on your own." There was a silence, heavy and trembling. She finally asked, "Do you still love me?" That was the hardest part. Because I did, once. With a depth I didn't know I possessed. I would have burned kingdoms to keep her warm. But love is a contract written in ink, and betrayal is gasoline. She lit the match. "I signed nothing after." "No," I said. "But I remember what it felt like. And I remember the moment it ended." She looked like she'd been slapped. Her eyes welled up, and for a second, she looked 14 again, lost, wounded, searching for a hand that wasn't there anymore. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Noah." "You didn't mean not to," I replied. "There's a difference." Her tears fell freely now, staining her perfect face. "You don't even want closure." I stood slowly, adjusting my sleeves. "This is closure. You're not here for forgiveness, you're here for permission to feel okay about what you did. And I'm not giving it to you." She opened her mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to plead, but I had already opened the door. "Goodbye, Celeste." She hesitated, then stood. Her heels clicked against the tile like regret punctuating each step. Just before exiting, she turned. "You won't hear from me again." I nodded once. "That's the first honest thing you've said in years." She left. And I didn't watch her go. I just stood there, the stillness in my chest finally matching the stillness in my mind. Later that night, Mira poured us 2 glasses of Syrah on her balcony. She didn't ask what happened, she didn't have to. Instead, she looked at me and said, "Feel lighter?" I tilted my head. "I feel clean." Because vengeance wasn't her ruin. It was my peace. It's strange how silence becomes its own kind of answer. I never replied to her last message. "I hope one day you'll forgive me," she had written. Forgive her? For what? For mistaking me for a phase? For testing my love like it was disposable? Or for thinking I'd still be standing there, unchanged, when she came crawling back? No. Forgiveness is a grace given to those who confront what they've done. She never did. She just wanted the comfort of my closure without the discomfort of my truth. The truth is, I'm doing better now. Not the kind of better you post about to make someone jealous. The quiet kind. The real kind. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. I live in a smaller apartment now. Nothing fancy, just warm sunlight in the mornings and enough space to breathe. I bought new furniture, stripped of memory. I even got a bonsai tree, which Mira says is the most emotionally responsible plant you can own. I believe her. Mira. She stayed. She never asked to replace Celeste. Never tried to. She simply sat with me through the silence. Through the first time I cried. Through the nights I scrolled through old photos and deleted them one by one. We aren't a fairy tale. We're still figuring things out. But she sees me. Not as a project or a placeholder. Just me. And after everything, that's more than enough. Sometimes, I wonder if Celeste thinks of me when she's alone. If she regrets Luca. If she wishes she had chosen differently. But I don't linger there. That's her prison, not mine. My revenge wasn't loud or dramatic. It wasn't some grand cinematic takedown. It was choosing not to play her game. It was building a life so full of self-worth that her absence felt like a favor. I don't hate her anymore. But I'll never love her again. She taught me that love without loyalty is just performance. That people who vanish in pursuit of something shinier often find themselves lost. She returned to an empty house. But I didn't wait for her on the porch. I had packed up my heart, my peace, and my future long before she even realized I was gone. That house was never my home. I am home now. And in that quiet place I've built, with grief folded into the walls and dignity in every corner, I finally rest. Not as a man betrayed. But as a man reborn.